Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics. As some of you know, we did a shop hop with the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association. We went to a number of fish stores and fish rooms and did a tour. This is the fourth one in that series. We visit Jeff Michael's fish room from Aquatic Clarity. A big thank you to Jeff for allowing us to film. I think you're going to enjoy it, so stay tuned. So this is an overview of Jeff Michael's fish room, Aquatic Clarity. I will put his information once again in the description below in case you are interested in learning more about any of the fish that you see in this video. As I mentioned, I want to do this video a little bit differently. In the previous three videos, we went through a lot of tanks. I gave you the names and we look at those. In this video, what struck me when I went to his fish room is the natural aspect of each one of these fish tanks. So here we're looking at some pencil fish, really cool fish. So I'm not going to bring you every single tank, but what I did want to do is bring you some of the highlights, and I wanted to focus on some of the tanks that I thought were just really cool. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice as you look through these tanks is that they are not spotless. I recently did a video on water quality and how you know whether or not water is sufficient for your fish or whether or not you have good water for your fish. I'm going to put that video in the upper right hand corner as well as in the description below. And one of the arguments that I make in that video is you cannot tell the health of a fish tank by looking at it. And so as we see here, as we go through this fish room, we're going to see a lot of things. And if we're really honest, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. When you look at a tank like this, when you look at some of these tanks, how many of us would go out on a Facebook group or looking for help in a comment section saying, oh my gosh, I've got algae in my tank, or my plants aren't looking 100% healthy, and yet we look at these setups and these fish are perfectly healthy, they're thriving, they're doing well, they're breeding like crazy, but when you look at the tanks, they are not spotless. And again, one of the points that I make in the video where I look at water quality is the way a tank appears isn't necessarily reflective of the water quality within that tank. And one of the things that I really appreciated here in this fish room tour was the natural look to the tank. We could see on the back of the tank, on the sides of the tank, yeah, there's some algae built up. We could see that there is some detritus at the bottom of the tank. But as we look at these tanks, these fish are extremely healthy. The fry will feed on microorganisms associated with the stuff that's on the bottom of the tank. I really like this setup. I like the natural look. This is a really cool fish, the Biotopes. There were a couple of them in here. I think there were three. Might have been a male and two females, I believe. But again, these are fish that are happy, they're healthy, they're breeding. And while the tank doesn't look like a high-tech aquascape tank, there was a big part of me that really enjoyed the look of these tanks, even more so than some of the aquascape, the highly aquascape tanks that we see out on the internet. A lot of those tanks that you see are really difficult to maintain. It takes a lot of time. Some of them, practically speaking, they almost can't be maintained when you look at the really highly aquascape tanks. Something like this, we've got a natural look, and I always look at the fish, and we did a fish room tour of LR Brett's. I'll put that in the description below, where it was the same thing. You see here, a lot of the fish, they're just really relaxed, really looking healthy, enjoying their habitat, and I think that's because it more closely reflects what they would normally be in. And these pie tetras that you see here in this tank were really cool. I'd never seen them before. I really like those fish where you can kind of see through them. A lot of cory cats he had in his fish room, and so for the most part, as we're going through the fish room, you're going to see a lot of South American fish. He also specializes in fish from West Africa, some Central American fish. So it's just cool to see because you don't always get to see these types of fish. And there's a lot of unusual fish here, again, like these pie tetras that we see here, the Biotopes. I like the mix of some of these tanks where it's a really relaxed sort of look. You've got the cardinal tetras, the pie tetras, you've got some apistos in some of the tanks that are interacting here, and it's just a really cool thing. You can see in a lot of the tanks there is sand. That tends to go really well with the cory cats that he's keeping. It goes really well with some of the geophagus that we're going to see. Always love cardinal tetras. I know sometimes we start to look at common fish that we see in the hobby frequently, and we don't give them the attention that maybe they deserve, but a nice big school of cardinal tetras or neon tetras, it's just really a sight to behold. A lot of color. This tank here, I think it was my favorite in all of his fish room. I spent so much time looking at this tank and the mix with the discus, the angels, the geophagus. There was so much color. I love the way that the fish were interacting both with one another and with their environment. There wasn't a lot of aggression here. You know, I would venture to guess that some people would say, oh my gosh, you're keeping discus and angels together, or discus and geophagus, or you've got some apistos or some cory cats or what have you. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in here that says, wow, you know what, I don't know if that's such a good idea. And then you look at a tank like this where all the fish are relatively relaxed, and again, you've got that really natural feel. And this is the kind of tank where, quite frankly, when I was sitting here, it reminded me of why I keep fish in the first place. While it's always fun adding more tanks and getting new fish, sometimes it's nice to just sit back and watch the fish interact with the environment that you've created. And one of the things I think I have to remind myself of, and maybe something that we all need to remind ourselves of, it's not the number of tanks that you have or the number of fish that you have, but enjoying what you have and watching their personalities. I think that's something that can get lost sometimes as you gain more tanks and more fish, is losing sight of what these fish actually do, what makes them special. And so we see the discus and their calm demeanor, and the angelfish, and then you've got the geophagus, and they're going through and they're sand sifting, and the sand is coming out of their gills, and it's something that's really fun to see. But when you've got a lot of fish, a lot of tanks, sometimes you overlook those things and you miss some of the beauty of what you've created in those ecosystems. So the geophagus that you're looking at this tank is Geophagus fenna. I did put the name in the lower part of the screen in case you're interested. Very similar looking, in my opinion, to both the Geophagus cernamensis, Geophagus weinmilleri, and as most of you know, Geophagus are one of my favorite all-time fish. We have a number of them in our fish room as well. I wanted to take a minute too and thank Eli, my 11-year-old. A lot of the close-ups that you see of these fish, that was him shooting video. When I look back and looked at my own footage, it really wasn't all that good. Thankfully, he had a lot of B-roll that he did, a lot of video that I was able to use. So thank you, Eli, for doing all this, because it made my life so much easier getting these shots for you. So once again, Aquatic Clarity does ship fish. I will put their information in the description below. He breeds a lot of fish, a lot of South Americans, a lot of West Africans, and it's just really cool to see this layout, to see what he's done to make sure that these fish are in a comfortable habitat. And it's interesting when we talk about methods of filtration, and I've talked about, you know, sponge filters and hang on the back filters and canister filters. A lot of people who have these fish would absolutely use a canister filter to filter these tanks, and I look here and it's all sponge filters. I didn't see anything other than sponge filters. He had a power head on one of the larger tanks, but it goes to show once again, you can use sponge filters just to get that surface area for biological filtration. Yes, the sponge filter is not going to give you the mechanical filtration that maybe people would expect, but there's a little bit of debris floating in here, but certainly not much. And again, it provides that natural habitat. So yes, sponge filters will do a fantastic job, even when you're dealing with rare fish or expensive fish. We saw it here. We've seen it in other fish room tours as well. It is a wonderful method of filtration. Love these discus. Absolutely, the colors were fantastic. The angelfish, I like this style of angelfish. It reflects what I have in a 150 gallon. I've got a long fin angel that looks very similar to this. I think they're really cool. And so here we have one of my favorites, a Pistogramma panduro. This is a cool fish. Check out the colors. There are fry in the tank, and so these apistos, like many, they're going to color up a little bit more when they're protecting fry, but my goodness, the colors were absolutely fantastic. And this is an apisto, at least by us, not quite as common as some of the other ones like the Agassizii or the fire reds or even the cockatoides, but my goodness, the finnaged, that tail fin with that orange, it was really popping in person. The camera doesn't do a great job of picking up. You can see little fry, little bitty guy over there on the lower left hand side, and again, that's why the fish are showing such color. But this is a great fish. Again, we've talked about fish for stocking 10 gallon 20 gallon tanks. Apistos are a great addition, at least to a 20 gallon tank, maybe a pair and a 10 if you're just looking to breed with nothing else. This was kind of cool. They had just spit these out when we were here. This is Bonitochromis conjunctus. I just thought it was interesting because I was there, I walked by that tank, there was nothing, walked back again, and then we had fish everywhere. This was a nice display tank that they had upstairs, again with some discus and some cardinals. Nice natural looking setting. I like the use of the wood, the rocks, the plants. Very cool looking. and they had a lot of different types of cory cats. I didn't even want to begin to film them all and put the names on there, but really cool. If you're interested in cory cats, this is definitely a place to check out. Again, I love the way that they were interacting with that sand and going through and sifting through there. Really cool stuff. And I have no idea what this next fish is, just thought it was cool. And then here we've got some hatchets, marble hatchets. I like this tank because there wasn't a whole lot of movement going on at the surface. So the hatchet fish got to do what hatchet fish normally do, just hang out in a relaxed manner at the top of the tank. And here we do have another Apistogramma. This is Apistogramma cockatoides triple red. And again, really cool colors. Love them a lot. This is another one of those centerpiece fish. This is a male, of course. This is a great centerpiece fish for a smaller tank, maybe a 20 long. They don't get super overly aggressive, but you get a lot of cool color. You get a pair, and if you've got other fish in the tank, you might have some issues there. But other than that, really awesome. So if you enjoyed this video, share, subscribe. We'll try to get some more species profiles out there soon and some more fish room tours. Thanks for watching.